Hello, Coolman229 here with another Topic of the Week video, and this week I'll be talking about Mass Effect. Again, I did it a couple weeks ago and I talked about Ashley Williams, but I really want to get to this topic because I have a lot to say about it. This was submitted by a YouTube user, The King of Hearts, and their topic was your thoughts on Lair, the Shadow Broker DLC, Liara's growth or lack thereof, etc. Oh, Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC. I have a lot of complicated feelings on this. On one hand, it's probably one of the best DLCs produced in the Mass Effect series. On the other hand, it's really stupid. I mean, there's so many good parts to this, and people are not wrong for thinking that this is actually pretty good. The problem comes with, well, it's in Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 2 sucks balls. It's probably one of the worst, my least favorite gaming experiences ever playing a video game. It really is. Just a cheap Gears of War knockoff gameplay with dumbing down all of the good RPG elements from the first game, and then it has a really awful story with some neat characters. Now, later the Shadow Broker Now, I did talk about in my Ashley Williams video about how Liara was basically relegated to being some sort of information broker. Now, talking about Liara's growth, should I say her derailment, really? Liara was, in Mass Effect 1, sort of shy, sort of bookish Asari. She was young, barely considered out of her teens in terms of Asari years, even though she was over 100 years old. She's been studying the Protheans for a good chunk of her life. I think about half. I think it was like 50 years or something. She'd been studying the Protheans. And she was very relevant to the plot, helping you deal with the, what's it called? The Prothean beacon, and then, the cipher, all that stuff. She helped you with that. In some cases, it was just like, oh, wow, this is totally crazy, Shepard. Yeah, I know. It's in my head. When I played the game, obviously, I romanced Ash. My Shepard sort of saw Liara as like a little sister, so he kind of friend zone her when she started, blurting out her feelings for him, and he's just like, sorry, don't quite like you like that. You're like a little sister to me. But, Liara was never one of my favorite characters, and I do think I'm a little soured specifically because it feels like BioWare tried to shove her in your face so much. She's super plot important. She's used in the advertisements. It shows her love scene, and it's like, in the trailer for the game, and it's like, stop shoving Liara in her face. And Liara is the only character of the love interest to get a DLC, and that's what this is about. Lair of the Shadow Broker is basically giving it, in some ways, it's a return to form, especially given the fact that the Mass Effect 2 main story was, it was just awful. This is actually an interesting story, and it deals with something that was a sort of a hidden, not quite a hidden, but it was a subplot in Mass Effect 1, the Shadow Broker. He's a guy who is so mysterious no one's ever met him, and you encounter some people who mention him. You meet one of his agents, and I do think you meet someone else who's, and people who mention the Shadow Broker. But this guy, he's got his hands in every jar. He's working with every single, galactic government. Like, this guy's got connections. Well, this is all about him. Awesome, right? Well, the premise is betrayed by the fact that it's Mass Effect 2. And the lead writer of Mass Effect 2 is Mac Walters, who, if you don't know who Mac Walters is, he's the guy who's partially responsible for the Mass Effect 3 ending. That should tell you all you really need to know about the guy. But the idea of meeting the Shadow Broker is actually really cool. In fact, there's so many cool things you could have done with this. Getting with Liara and going to the Shadow Broker, you could have actually... What I really would like to have seen is you get an option to strike a deal with the Shadow Broker, that you can work with him and prepare for what's going to happen in Mass Effect 3. Or you can kill him and take his place, or you can basically just work with him to get information, or you could help, or you could get him to side with a certain side, or any kind of thing you can do, like all sorts of different options that would pretty much change the landscape of Mass Effect 3. So what do you do in this game? What do you do in this DLC? You kill him. That's it. You just kill him. It's really stupid, honestly. Now, specifically about Liara. This DLC was basically, in some ways, it felt like an apology for basically turning Liara into a bloodthirsty sociopath, willing to openly and publicly threaten people with gruesome murders if they didn't do what she wanted. So yeah, it's a pretty far jump from the nice and kind young Asari who just wanted to learn about the Protheans. She becomes a bloodthirsty information dealer. Why? Oh, well, she wanted to learn about... She was trying to save Shepard. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. It's not an explanation. It's an excuse. The entire change... I mean, Garrus's character actually makes sense in Mass Effect 2. The whole Archangel thing makes perfect sense. If you really look at his character in Mass Effect 1... and in fact, I like to compare him to... I don't know if I mentioned this in my Ashley Williams video, but I do like to compare Garrus a lot to Ash in terms of being the opposites of each other. Ashley is a paragon at heart, but she comes off as a renegade. Garrus, however, is a renegade at heart, but he comes off as a paragon, and he's been trained to basically be a paragon. But when you talk to him, he always wants to break the rules. He always wants, and you're talking about Mass Effect 1, I mean, on the ship, on Normandy, he's always willing to bend the rules, to work outside the law, and that makes perfect sense why he would end up becoming a vigilante named Archangel, going around and shooting the biggest, baddest guys of the bunch. And it's like, alright, that makes perfect sense. I kind of wish that they had taken into account the fact that I convinced him to go back to C-Sec, but whatever. That's what Mass Effect 2 does. It ignores every choice you've ever made. But, yeah, okay, but with Liara, like I said, so him, but regardless of the choice I made in Mass Effect 1, Garrus's change of character makes perfect sense. Especially without Shepard being sort of the leader. Garrus is naturally the one who would step up and create his own team. It makes a lot of sense. And him being revenge-driven, basically because he got a dozen men killed, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I like Garrus's character in Mass Effect 2. It's one of the few things... The characters are generally pretty good. Especially the crewmates. But Liara was just derailed. And it really felt so much like they were like, okay... So people didn't like her as much in the first game. What if we made her hardcore? Yeah! Pulls out a flamethrower. That's what it felt like. It just felt like they were trying to make her more extreme to be likable. A variation of the turning Raiden into a cyborg in Metal Gear Solid 4, and then people creamed their pants and like, oh my gosh, Raiden's my favorite character now because he's like a totally emo cyborg. Obviously, people didn't like it, and people who were fans of Liara, I'm sure, didn't like the fact that a character they really liked is basically being a horrible psychopath in this. And when I first met her, I was just like, Liara, is that you? It's like, it was one of those experiences in Mass Effect 2 that just totally take you out of the experience. And I was like, there's so many experiences like that in Mass Effect 2. And I was playing that and I'm just like, this isn't Liara. Who are you and what have you done with the shy, bookish archaeologist? But Lair the Shadow Broker really, really tries to address this. In her apartment, there's all sorts of stuff about archaeology. You know, there are mentions of it. I think they have her PhD or doctorate or whatever, her degree on the wall or something. I can't remember. It's been a while since I played Mass Effect 2. But you can tell they were really trying to be like, oh, okay, but look, we didn't really need that. And it's really very apparent when Liara comes in and she starts acting in character. I think this is at the end of the DLC. She starts acting in character, and she's just like, I was just putting on a face, and it wasn't really her, and I'm just like, okay. So even when she was alone with Shepard, she really couldn't drop the act. It's an admirable attempt, but Mass Effect 2 is something that's so fundamentally flawed, and her character was so fundamentally changed. Coming up with these reasons why she was faking it is just a retcon on top of a retcon. And the fact that she's so bloodthirsty to save Farron, or as Smudboy described him, not Thane, or he just called him Thane, but seriously, the guy looks just like Thane. It's like they used Thane's character model and palette swapped the clothes. It's ridiculous. It's lazy, it's what it is. But the thing with the DLC really is that it pisses all over the Shadow Broker. That's really what that's what really ticks me off. There are a lot of good moments in this, and actually quite a bit of it made me think of the Star Wars prequels, especially Episode 2. There's a part where, you know, you're doing the car chasing Televasir, who is a really freaking awesome character. I really would have liked to see her, you know, who pointed out the fact that Shepard's hypocrisy of working with Cerberus while still maintaining a severe moral high horse, which you can't answer to, and she dies. And it's like, yeah, but that was very much like the chase of the assassin in what's her name in Attack of the Clones. But just, it's like I said, I have so many conflicting feelings on this DLC, because on some hands there's some stuff that's good. Liara starts acting a little bit more in character. We get some nice jokes. Like this DLC actually has a lot of funny jokes in it. One of my favorite, like in Mass Effect 1, you could use Omnigel to just go through a lock. It was just like, just slap 25 Omnigel on it and you'll get through a lock. And considering the fact that I was breaking all the cheap armor and stuff that I had, armor and guns, the Omnigel, I had 9999 I had 999 Omnigel all the time. It got to the point where I wouldn't even try with those puzzles. I would just, alright, Omnigel, because I'd replace it in the next 5 minutes. But you can't do that in Mass Effect 2, and there's a really nice explanation. It was a security upgrade. You see, it's stuff like this, these nice little explanations that are very simple and don't require anything completely stupid, like heat sinks. That retcon pisses me off. But it's a nice thing where Liara, where Shepard goes, hey, remember back when you could just slap Omnigel on a lock? And Liara's like, that security upgrade made a lot of people very upset. And it's a nice moment. It really is. It's actually really nice. I like stuff like that. Or when you're piloting the car and you crash it, and Liara will say, oh, at least it's better than the Mako. Which, I might be one of the 5 people in the world who actually really, really enjoyed the Mako. But it's still a funny line regardless. And it's you know, acknowledging the fact that a lot of people really hated the Mako. Though instead of improving it, they decided to just remove it, which is a big problem. And, you know, overall the story is kind of actually rather enjoyable, actually charging onto the Shadow Broker's personal headquarters ship, you know, running right up to his face and demanding, you give me what I want. Yeah, like, Shepard's got balls to just run up to the Shadow Broker for that. On the other hand, this is stereotypical of Mass Effect 2. it's got a really sort of... its story is very much focused in one direction. Mass Effect 2 really, overall, is an exercise in railroading. You might as well just call Mass Effect 2 Railroad Simulator 2010. That's really all it is. And the Lair of the Shadow Broker suffers from that as well. You would think it would allow you, like, I would love to have the option to keep a Televisier alive, to give her Metagel and save her, and then, have her go, well, why are you saving me? And you'd just be able to say, because this is who I am. I'm Commander Shepard. I'm the good guy. And, maybe you could team up with Televisier. Maybe you could work with her. Maybe she can join your crew in Mass Effect 3. Who would have thought? It's stuff like this that, giving people options on what to do. But sadly, after Mass Effect 1, options stopped being a thing, really. You get some flavor or choices, but other than that, you're getting the same thing everyone else is getting. And that, again, is what happens in Lair of the Shadow Broker. Liara does the same thing no matter what, and Shepard will do the same thing no matter what. You'll kill the Shadow Broker, Liara will become the new Shadow Broker. And the problem with this is that, well, I mean, what if I didn't want Liara to become the Shadow Broker? What if Liara didn't want to become the Shadow Broker? It's like, it completely removes any kind of character inconsistency and choice. I mean, okay, given Mass Effect 2 Liara, she would totally become the Shadow Broker, but Liara that we knew, it's like, it's one thing to have her grow into this. And this just kind of happens at the end. You kill the Shadow Broker, and it's just like, and Liara's like, well, I'm the Shadow Broker now. Lol, okay, thanks, bye. And it's just odd, really. Like, I mean, there's so much potential in this idea. It's just gone. And the Shadow Broker himself, I really love the fact that the Shadow Broker turned out to be, what was he, a Yogg? Let me look this up, honestly. I can't remember what all the species are in Mass Effect, especially, it's been several years since I played the games. Yes, a Yogg. I was right. And the fact that it was not a species that people have seen very much, and they're normally not very intelligent, but this one was super smart and able to take the place of its master and became the Shadow Broker. That is such a cool story. That automatically makes him awesome. So what is the first thing he does when you challenge him? He fights you. It's like, there's no diplomacy involved in this. There's no choice involved in this. You don't get to sit down and discuss things. Like, oh my gosh, this is Mass Effect. We should be able to talk everything out with pretty much everyone outside of a select handful of people who are just crazy and want to shoot you. But it just doesn't give you the choice. It doesn't give you the option to just talk to him. I really wanted to come up to the Shadow Broker. I want to strike a deal with them. I'm like, and another thing that's really, this is something else that really pisses me off, is that Mass Effect 2 overall paints the Shadow Broker as pretty much chaotic evil. It's like, yes, he generally falls towards chaotic neutral, really. And the fact that he's trying to preserve himself for when the Reapers come, but why, like, he has all these resources at his disposal, and he basically becomes, like, a generic bad guy. That's really what he becomes, a generic bad guy. For a guy who could start wars by pressing a couple buttons. Who could end the wars by pressing other buttons. A guy who, on his word, could change the galactic political landscape. The way people talked about the Shadow Broker was that this guy was like the most incredible, dangerous person in the galaxy. He's just some thug, really. And it's really disappointing because, you would expect the Shadow Broker would be more intelligent. And making him a Yogg, a violent race, doesn't excuse the fact that his entire character was basically just to flush down the toilet just to throw in a cheap boss fight. I don't mind fighting him if you screw up diplomacy. I would love to just talk it out with the guy, like, hey, so you tried to recover my body for the collectors. So, well, bygones be bygones. You know, strike a deal. Man, do you know how interesting that would have been if you had the Shadow Broker as an ally? You could make it worth his while. Man, that guy would work with Shepard. In fact, you could even pull that in Mass Effect 3, where you can have the Shadow Broker be a bargaining chip that you can use to get information on different people. And, you know, work, like when you're trying to get everyone to work together, you can use the Shadow Broker's information. Or you can kill him and replace him with Liara, and then have her give you information. It's so stupid, and that we didn't get this. Now, I haven't talked as much about Liara as I really feel like I should have, but that's the problem with it. Everything's so vapid in Mass Effect 2, and Liara's character can be summed up as, get Farron, get Farron, get Farron. What do you joke? Get Farron. That's really all her character is. And there's some discussion, mainly near the end, about, you know, her feelings, and we do get some moments to talk things out, but in all honesty, it doesn't really balance out the way it should. And on top of the fact that it plays like Mass Effect 2, which plays like a vastly inferior Gears of War clone, which basically drops all of the gunplay from the first game, which is an inherent problem in Mass Effect 2. Even the, I found excellent Overlord DLC suffered the same problem. You just had that crappy gunplay. But the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC does try to rectify some of the issues with Liara's character, and I do appreciate it for that. At the very least, they tried, and they didn't do it in as worst of ways they could. They did say that she was trying to hide her insecurities or something like that, and you know what? I could buy it without any issue if the rest of it was really good. I can't, really, and it's just those parts that annoy the hell out of me that I can't quite give this. I really love, I did enjoy playing through this DLC. I actually did. Just like I enjoyed playing through the Overlord DLC. Excuse me. Which really surprised me. I actually quite enjoyed it. But, you get a lot of good stuff. You get some good lines. You get some actual world building. You actually get an explanation why you can't use Omnigel and everything. I mean, even if you're just still dealing with a gameplay system that's vastly inferior to the original games, it's still a fun little romp, and it's a great adventure to go with Liara. And I do give them credit. I do give BioWare, the newly infected by the EA virus, I do give them credit. They tried to rectify some of the issues surrounding Liara's character, even if they didn't handle the story as well as they could have. There's a lot of good stuff, and a lot of probably most cinematic and most enjoyable moments in Mass Effect 2, I have to say, hands down. And I really, I enjoyed a lot of this. I just having so many issues with it. Now, I was going to say something else. I was leading to a point. Oh, yeah. And while it does try to give Liara's character some justice, I do have to wonder, why the hell didn't the Vermeer Survivor get any justice? Not really. Seriously, I want to know why. Why wasn't there a DLC involving meeting up with Ash or Kaiden? Going through stories, talking to them again, even if they didn't join your crew or could go on the suicide mission. It would just be nice to go with them and hang with them and work with them again, like you could with Liara and Lair of the Shadow Broker. And it's it's Liara is the golden child. She was pretty much decided years ago that she was the main love interest, and it's really disappointing because I do find her the most bland love interest. I mean, Kaiden may not be like super as interesting, and I may not find him as interesting as a character as Ash, but I still really liked hearing his story, talking about the biotics, about the kids he grew up with, the training, the issues he had from that. I liked hearing about that when I talked to him. I liked talking to Ash, and it makes me so upset that two characters I thought were really awesome basically get pissed on and are relegated to trying to save their characters with a letter. And I know in Ash's case, she sends that letter, if you romanced her in the first game and weren't as much of a douche as the game could force you to be, she sent you the letter apologizing for being so mad, yada yada. It was good stuff. I wish we actually got to talk to her. And I wish we got to talk to Kaiden, but it's something. And I have to say, Mass Effect 2 is a whole bundle of stupid, and I'm going to take what I can get, really. Lair the Shadow Broker, while having an awful lot of flaws, is probably one of the best experiences I had in the game. Mass Effect 2 has a lot going against it, and I can't quite say the Lair the Shadow Broker is a completely against it point. It's enjoyable in its own way, really. It's got good parts. It's got enough good parts that I would say warrant playing it, even if you don't like the game. It's like the Overlord DLC. Sure, there are some issues with it, but the Lair of the Shadow Broker has more issues considering all the crap with the Shadow Broker. But regardless, Lair of the Shadow Broker really is enjoyable. It would have been more enjoyable if it had been Mass Effect 1 and you still had the same stuff going on, because it would have been treated a lot differently. But yeah, really, that's pretty much it. Lair of the Shadow Broker, stupid, has a lot of really awful plot holes. It misses a lot of opportunities, and it honestly lost a lot of potential it had. But it's fun, and it does do a few nice things, and it's definitely enjoyable. It was probably one of the best parts of Mass Effect 2. In fact, I like the idea of this so much that I have this rewrite idea for Mass Effect 2. I actually can put in the Lair of the Shadow Broker into the main story, and that's actually a good chunk of the beginning of the game, is dealing with the Shadow Broker. But that's something to discuss another time. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, I'll put that up here when I get that posted. If you want to submit a topic, you can go on to my Tumblr and you can send me an ask and then type topic : whatever you want me to talk about. Or you can go into YouTube or if you're on YouTube, you can just comment below in whatever you want me to talk about. Just make sure that you follow the rules that I will post below on both Tumblr and YouTube. And, excuse me, I'm sorry. And you can just make sure that the topic is about something fictional. It's not about real world stuff. It's about a story, a game. It's about something like that. And, it's about something specific that I can talk about. That's not just, why do you like X, or what do you think about Y? Yeah, just remember to, and I actually would like some topics. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm running low, and I like to have a lot of topics that I can choose from when doing each video. Well, I think that's about it for today, so thank you for watching.